Thank you. Good afternoon, please. Cesar, you caught me unawares. I thought you had notes that you were reading. You were going to say a few things. He said, thankfully, I'll get a 5-minute break. Of course, my watch is off. Anyway, Your Excellency, Asif Anwar Ahmad, Ambassador of the United Kingdom of the Philippines, Secretary Cesar Purisima, Mr. Ramon Del Rosario, Commissioner, the best friend of the business community, Commissioner Kim Jacinto Henares, Mr. Richard Namoral, Mayor Oka Moreno, Board of Trustees of the Integrity Initiative, partners in integrity, and from the business community, fellow workers of government, honored guests, mga minamahal ko mga kababayan, magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Whenever I speak of corruption, I always emphasize that the idea that it takes two to tango. Yes, there are always those in a position of power abusing their positions, but there are also those willing to partake in their schemes or even just stand idly by while others steal from the nation's coffers. The only way we can truly end corruption in the Philippines is by taking a holistic approach, one that involves both government and the private sector. This was the belief that spurred the creation of this summit. It is the belief that continues to drive it today. Over the past few years, this initiative, along with the Forces for Reform, has grown by leaps and bounds. One example is your Integrity Pledge, which gathers signatories from both the public and private sector, all of whom commit to exercise zero tolerance for corruption. I am told that you have reached more than 3,000 signatories as of this year, with an eye towards reaching 10,000 by 2017. This is indeed very good news to me. Over the course of my term, our administration can attest to the effectiveness of our partnership, and we have proven time and again that good governance is indeed good economics. You don't even have to take my word for it, after all. One of the distinguished members of our audience today, Mr. Peter Perfecto, spoke about the transformation of the Philippine economy along the straight path during my last State of the Nation address. I remember him mentioning how our net foreign direct investments reached $6.2 billion last year, which was our all-time high. He talked about our country's rise in the World Economic Forum's Global Competitiveness Index, where at that time, we went from 85th in 2010 to 52nd in 2014, with that particular organization crediting our anti-corruption agenda. Let me share even better news. We have once again moved up those rankings to 47th place in the 2015 report, marking a 38th place jump since our administration took office. Mr. Perfecto already gave quite a comprehensive list, but the truth is there are even more reasons to be optimistic on the economic front. In the past 5 years, our economy's growth rate has clocked in at 6.2%, our fastest in nearly 4 decades, and one of the fastest in Asia. The necessary macroeconomic elements are definitely in place for us to continue along this trajectory. For instance, during our time in office, we have managed to receive 22 positive credit ratings actions, moving us well within investment grade status and granting us greater financial flexibility. We have likewise increased our infrastructure spending from 1.83% of GDP in 2010 to 4.10% this year. Of course, as I pointed out earlier, this is a GDP that has been experiencing stellar growth. The goal for next year is to reach at least 5% of GDP. I also encourage you to look closely at the performance of our government-owned and controlled corporations. It seems that in many countries, when one talks of state enterprises, one always mentions gross inefficiencies. To be honest, at one point, we were no different. We had a system that allowed companies to award disproportionately large bonuses to GOCCs, even those who were perpetually operating at a loss. This is why one of our first moves was to fix the system. We tasked Finance Secretary Cesar Purisima to study everything that can be done to turn the situation around. And with the help of our friends in the legislature, particularly Senate President Frank Drilon and then Congressman Junabaya, we passed a law that truly professionalized how our GOCCs are run. The improvement has been stark. Please look at the numbers. From January 2001 to June 2010, the national government received 84.18 billion pesos in dividends. From July 2010 to July July 2010 to June 2015, these increased to 131.86 billion pesos. This means that counting the dividends for 2016, we have a very realistic chance of doubling in 6 years what our predecessor collected in more than 9 years. Of course, we have also seen other pieces of legislation that improve our economic landscape. There is, of course, the competition law, which fulfills the twin goals of improving the goods and services available to our people and incentivizing innovation among companies here. Yesterday, I also signed the Tax Incentives Management and Transparency Act, which will establish a more strategic and deliberate system through which government can offer tax incentives and focus on critical growth areas. These laws passed by our partners in Congress, among many others, will certainly help foster an environment conducive to growth long after I step down from office. These improvements in our economy, however, are only meaningful if they are felt by all, which is why we have channeled our resources into massive investments in our greatest resource, which is the Filipino people. You may know of our conditional cash transfer program, which provides cash grants to the poorest of the poor, as long as they send their children to school and have them vaccinated, amongst other conditions. During our term, we have grown this program almost sixfold, going from around 780,000 household beneficiaries to 4.4 million, or roughly equivalent to 22 million Filipinos. At this point, even with the study still ongoing, the DSWD reports that 1.4 million Filipino households have already been raised above the poverty line. Aside from the CCT, another major step we have taken in terms of inclusive growth is the expansion of PhilHealth, which now allows the poorest 40% of our population to simply enter any government hospital and receive free treatment. We likewise wiped out the inherited backlog of classrooms, school seats, textbooks, while restructuring our education program to be at par with global standards, all with a view of empowering our children to gain the skills they need to succeed later in life. For those of working age, we have granted TESTA greater resources to train our people to take advantage of the growing number of opportunities here. Might I note, we have done this strategically. By working closely with the private sector, we have increased the 28.5% employment rate among TESTA scholars in 2006 to 2008 to around 70% employment rate among the TWSP scholars, and even to 96% in certain sectors. That, of course, is defined as finding a job 6 months or within 6 months after graduation. This, I believe, is even more reason why we should look for more channels through which government and the private sector can synergize. All this progress naturally flows back to their businesses. Think about it. When our people are employed and are able to bring home greater incomes, that also means they're empowered consumers who subsequently have greater capacities to avail of the goods and services you offer. What we see here is a virtuous cycle where good governance begets economic expansion. This fuels our pursuit of inclusivity, and it is that inclusivity that leads to a happy electorate who will keep like-minded people holding the reins of power. All this, I believe, is rooted in a culture of integrity, one that we continue to foster together. There is no doubt, when government and private sector can engage each other in a positive manner, great things can and will happen. It is in these success stories where we find the importance of summits like this. We need to make the most of the opportunity to talk to one another and expand the horizons of our cooperation. We need to speak and listen to one another to see what we can do better and to craft even bolder plans for the future. This year, I am particularly drawn to the theme of your gathering, investing in integrity. It certainly is accurate to call it an investment. After all, there is always the temptation to pursue the short-sighted benefits of the unethical and the corrupt. But all of us here know that will only have your companies vying to be the big fish in the increasingly smaller pond. Whereas when we invest in integrity, when we create systems where the hardworking and the innovative are justly rewarded, and when we acknowledge that integrity along with inclusivity is a pillar of any working society, then the pond itself grows and all of us can enjoy greater prosperity. Next year, our country once again faces a crossroads. We can continue along the path of integrity and progress, or we can stray from it and backslide into the hopelessness of the past. To all those who have worked with us along the straight path, I believe the choice is clear. I've always believed that our greatest strength is our people, and in the same way that they have made all that we have achieved possible, I have faith that they will choose to tread the straight path, not just for the next 6 years, but for decades and generations to come. And it is in this spirit that I invite you all to further engage yourself in the process of continuing what we've begun together. I am certain that standing under the banner of solidarity, we can truly show the whole world that despite all that we have accomplished, this is only the beginning, that the Philippines will continue its rise, and you haven't seen anything yet. Thank you. Good day.